All right, what's up and welcome to Me, You, and Switch 2. I am me, Tom Tate, and you are you, so let's talk about Switch 2. This is a bonus episode. I'm going to say it's a bonus episode because I still think I'm going to record tomorrow morning and do my normal Friday episode. But this is a bonus episode to recap everything covered in today's Partner Direct. Today is Thursday, February 5th. I'll try to keep things, rapid fire and quick in the spirit of this show being as close to 10 minutes or less with each episode. I counted around 38 games mentioned in this one, so they really packed a punch for being only half an hour long. You'll see a lot of opinions on the internet today and this weekend, about how this Direct performed for Nintendo. I'll share my opinions towards the end, but let's just recap everything that was shared in today's Partner Direct. So they opened up with Orbitals. You've seen this game before. This is a late 80s, early 90s anime cartoon-inspired co-op game. It's not based on an actual property, but it looks like it could be. They are really nailing the retro cartoon aesthetic here. And the 1980s wailing electric guitar solo in the video, in the trailer, really helped a ton kind of, capture that vibe. They showcased, the different tools that you could use to solve puzzles and progress throughout the game. They showed some kind of mini game type stuff that you can do when you're not tackling the main adventure. So this is going to be exclusive to Switch 2. No release date yet, but they did mention that it will arrive this summer. Next, we had Paranormasight, The Mermaid's Curse, February 19th. This is kind of a visual mystery type game. Some gameplay elements, but, for the most part, this felt like a narrative-driven, talking type of game where you're just kind of investigating suspicious activity, talking to different characters to progress the story. This is part of a series, so if you played these games before, which I haven't, you might have a sense of how this game will play. Next, we have Captain Tsubasa 2, World Fighters 2026. We don't know the exact dates. Bandai Namco. This is a soccer game from a long-running series. They promised, I think, 110 characters across 22 teams. Next, we had Tokyo Scramble. This takes place in a ruined labyrinth under Tokyo where you encounter these dinosaur-like creatures called Xenos. Fighting is not an option, so this is all survival and stealth. If you get caught, you lose. This is game share compatible, I think, so you can play with a partner and you can kind of tag team. And I think February 11th, so this is right around the corner. That's Tokyo Scramble. Next, we have Valheim. This is from Coffee Stain Publishing. I never heard of them before, but I like the name. This is like a Viking exploration, crafting, Minecrafty, sailing simulator. You're building houses, all that stuff. You're building strongholds. There was an online multiplayer. I think up to 10 players can play. This will be available sometime in 2026. It didn't look great, but I don't know if that was just the streaming quality on YouTube, on my TV. But for whatever reason, this didn't feel like a very polished game. And I'm not trying to be too critical, but you can check it out for yourself. Next, we have Hollow Knight Nintendo Switch 2 Edition. That's available today. So if you're listening, it's available. You can check that out. I think probably better graphics, higher frame rates, all that stuff. Then we have another soccer game or football, depending upon where you are from. This is eFootball Kickoff, and that'll arrive this summer. After that, we had The Adventures of Elliot, The Millennium Tales. I had this on my bingo card. I thought that they would show this, and I thought that they would release kind of what the release date would be, and we did get that. It's going to be June 18th, so this will be a summer-ish release. HD 2D, classic Zelda-like, top-down from Square Enix. I played the demo. It was awesome. In this trailer, we got a view of the different ages or time periods where Elliot will travel, so this is definitely a time travel game. We suspected that from some of the early footage. Very stoked for this. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. Curious to see how much depth this has across all these different time periods and ages that you visit. I'm curious to see how long this game will be. So that game will arrive in June. Super Bomberman Collection. I was surprised to see this one. You're getting the Super Famicom, Super Nintendo Bombermans 1 through 5. Not all of them made it to the United States, so we're getting a few extra ones. You're getting the Famicom Bomberman 1 and 2 as well. Great games. This supports Game Share, so you can play with people locally who have a Switch. This is available later today, and it'll be available physically in August, I believe. I would have loved it if Wario Blast was on this. Nice little crossover. Wario Blast was an awesome game. After that, Square Enix was back. I don't know why they didn't do these back to back, but Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which is the second in the Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy, that will arrive on June 3rd, sooner than I expected. I was hoping that it would arrive this summer, but I was assuming it'd be like later in the summer, towards kind of Summer Games Fest, and when E3 would have been. June 3rd, pre-orders begin today. I didn't see the price yet. Might be up now. I'm hoping that it's $40, just like Final Fantasy VII Remake, but we'll see. Very glad to see a quick turnaround here. I'm excited to play these as close to back-to-back as I can. Pragmata. This is a new IP from Capcom. We've seen a lot of this already. You're kind of a soldier in a big suit. You have a little android girl that's riding on your shoulders named Diana. I've coined this Mecha Donkey Kong Bonanza because it feels like the same kind of duo vibe. It's a mix of third-person action with some hacking component. We saw more of the hacking component in the gameplay trailer today. April 24th. It'll be here before you know it. There's a demo available later today. After that, Turok Origins. We all know Turok. Dinosaur Hunter, third-person shooter. This is based on the Turok franchise, obviously. Graphics look very good. I thought this game looked really impressive. Not sure about the gameplay itself, but it looks very pretty. Big, giant enemies. Kind of felt like a Monster Hunter type of deal where you have these large enemies. Online play where you can tackle it together. Fall 2026. Not too sure. Hopefully we'll get more info about this later on. Kyoto Xanadu. This is from Nihon Falcom. This is an anime-esque side-scrolling platformer, but then all of a sudden they had 3D action RPG battles, which looked a little like the new Pokemon. And then you had high school simulation all in one. So there's a little bit of everything in this game. It'll be available summer 2026 on Switch and Switch 2. After that, we had Digimon Story Time Stranger, July 10th, Switch and Switch 2. Grand Blue Fantasy, Relink, Endless Ragnarok. It's a mouthful. This is another anime action RPG. Multiplayer component as well. That'll arrive in July 2, so July 9th. So we're getting Grand Blue Fantasy, Relink, Endless Ragnarok, and Digimon Story Time Stranger in the same week. Monster Hunter Stories 3, Twisted Reflection. In this, we've seen this one before, but in this trailer, they kept saying the word monsties. They talked about how you had your monsties, and I thought that made me laugh a little bit. March 13th, be here before you know it. I've said it before, the visuals on this one look amazing. Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom-esque. I kind of get that same vibe. There will be a demo available later today. I have not played a Monster Hunter game ever, so I'm thinking I'm going to try out this demo and see how it feels. From Hamster, we had Arcade Archives, Rave Racer, and then they announced Console Archives, which is new. And we saw Doraemon, Sonic Wings Special, Cool Borders, and Ninja Gaiden 2, The Dark Sword of Chaos. Cool Borders and Ninja Gaiden 2, The Dark Sword of Chaos will be available later today. Then we had the typical montage. You can't have a Nintendo Direct or a partner Direct without the montage. It's kind of a staple at this point where they show a bunch of games in quick succession. They don't really talk too much about them. They just show them. We had Scott Pilgrim EX, March 3rd. Another Eden begins, summer 2026. We had Reanimal, February 13th. WWE 2K26, March 13th. Star Trek Voyager Across the Unknown, February 18th. Disney Dreamlight Valley Nintendo Switch 2 Edition, March 25th. PGA Tour 2K25, February 6th, which is tomorrow. Cold Sept Begins, which looked like a card game, on July 16th. Goat Simulator 3, April 1st. Shadow Tactics Blades of the Shogun, March 18th. And then Tales of Arise Beyond the Dawn Edition. And that was May 22nd. Then we had kind of the Resident Evil Requiem segment. This is, of course, arriving February 27th, later this month. I call this segment Resident Evil Requiem for the uninitiated because they kind of told you about the game as if you've never heard anything about the Resident Evil series before, which is okay, which is good, because I think the Partner Direct is really meant to appeal to as many people as possible. And for us Nintendo news fiends, we've already heard and seen so much about Requiem, and we've probably played a fair amount of Resident Evil games and remakes of Resident Evil games. So we know what to expect here. But they showed that Resident Evil 7 and 8 arriving the same day. Pro Controller, Amiibo later this summer. You can scan the Amiibo and get weapon skins. I don't know why the Amiibo is not coming out, day and date, with the actual games. That's interesting. And then finally, they ended it with Todd Howard. Todd Howard, of course, from Bethesda Game Studios. Todd came out and talked about how much he loves Nintendo, and he was excited to support the original Switch. I know, Skyrim was on there, Doom was on there, but they showcased Fallout 4 Anniversary Edition. Looks pretty good. It definitely looks like a previous gen game. Doesn't look like a next gen game, even if they did do some graphic work to it. All 6 expansions are included. February 24th. Pre-orders begin today. I'm not sure what the pricing is on this one. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. This is a self-described globe-trotting cinematic adventure set between Raiders and Last Crusade. Mostly a first-person view game. Looks very pretty. May 12th. 2026. We knew this was coming. I don't think we knew the date, but we knew that this was announced. And then we had Oblivion Remastered. This was the last game that they showed. I played Oblivion Remastered in 2025 last year. I sunk 50 to 60 hours into this one on Xbox, and it was such a good time revisiting that world and joining the Thieves Guild and doing all the things, that I loved the first time I played it and spent hundreds of hours, back on the Xbox 360. So this will be available in 2026. No date yet. That was it, though. That was it. 38-ish games. No big reveals or announcements, really. We've known about most of these games. They've been announced before. We've seen them before. Lots of games that exist on previous platforms. Lots of, remastered versions of games that we've probably played before. Not a lot of new details on games that have been previously shown. That's not to say this was a bad direct. So here's my opinion. Nintendo is coming out and showing 38-ish titles in a half an hour that will stack their lineup for the next 6+ months, plus whatever first-party games they're going to announce that we don't know about yet, or whatever surprises that they'll announce for Nintendo Switch Online and things like that. I think if you are primarily a Switch owner and a Nintendo owner, Switch 1, Switch 2, and you don't have an Xbox and you don't have a PS5 or a Steam Deck or a powerful gaming PC, this is such a great buffet of options to pick up and play. And, Switch 2 has shown itself to be pretty capable to play these ports. Cyberpunk plays really well. Final Fantasy VII Remake is playing really well. So this is a good thing. This was a good direct. I'm a little disappointed. There's a couple games that I've been holding out on playing because I've been hoping they would come to Switch 2. Obviously, Expedition 33, Clair Obscur, because I didn't play it yet, and it won all the Game of the Year awards and all the accolades. And I love that style of game, so I will play it eventually. I was kind of hoping that I would play it this summer, close to this summer on Switch 2. Blue Prince is another one that I think has gotten a lot of praise that I've been eager to play, but not sure what to play it on. So there's a bunch of games, right, that I think would have been interesting to showcase, and no surprises, no surprises. And I think that's probably the challenge with these is you kind of always want that new IP or that return of an old IP. Imagine if we got like a Shadow announcement, not a Shadow drop, but like an announcement of like a Dino Crisis or a 3D Mega Man or something from Capcom, that was unexpected. I know we're getting a lot from Capcom. Chrono Trigger, like either Chrono Trigger remastered or something in the Chrono universe, like something like that would have been really interesting. Final Fantasy 3/Final Fantasy 6 type of deal. So many different surprises. We didn't get any of that. And it's a partner direct, right? So that kind of stuff, maybe that's reserved for later in the year. We'll see. My only hope with a lot of these games is that they stay competitively priced. So I've referenced Final Fantasy VII Remake a few times on the podcast. It's an old game. I played it in 2020. They priced it on Switch 2 at $40. They didn't have to do that. And while we were recording, I just looked up the price of Final Fantasy Rebirth, and that's going to be $50. So it's only $10 more. But they could have done both of these games at $60 because it's kind of not a luxury, right? But it's novel to have these Final Fantasy VII games on a Nintendo console, and they could have milked it. But they didn't do that, and I appreciate that. So, Rebirth at 50, fine. It's a newer game. It's a bit more open world. There's more hours you can sink into it. The Bethesda games, Fallout 4, I'm not sure what the price is of that. But through the magic of podcasting, I'm going to pause right now. Okay, I'm back after pausing, and Fallout 4 Anniversary Edition is $59.99. That's how much it's going to cost you to play Fallout 4, which is a game that's been out much longer than Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and it's $10 more. So, you're getting all the DLC, fine. But this game has been out forever. It's a hard buy at that release, especially when you can play Fallout 4, albeit not the Anniversary Edition. You can get it on Steam for pennies. It's just so cheap, it's always on sale. So when these third-party titles inevitably go on sale later on, it makes it really hard to buy these games at release when they're not priced accordingly, based on the value that you're getting and how long the game has been available. So I'm not going to argue price, right? But I'm just saying that I think Remake did it right, $40. I wish Rebirth was also at $40. But, ultimately these games are going to go on sale eventually. Curious what you think. I'm on Blue Sky at Switch2Pod. That's Switch with the number 2 pod. Tune in tomorrow, Friday. I will be back with another episode. If this is your first time listening to the show, every Tuesday and Friday, 5 to 10 minute episodes, just the news. Try to keep my opinions to myself. Obviously, a little opinionated when these Nintendo Directs come out. But definitely check it out. Subscribe if this is your thing. If you like to consume Nintendo Switch 2 news, that's what we've got here. Kind rating or review is awesome. Continues to help me grow the show. Sharing it with a friend, family member, Discord server, subreddit, wherever gamers hang out, that's even more helpful. Word of mouth is incredibly helpful. As always, thank you so much for your time and your attention. Much love. Now go play some games.